So obviously in the 2025 AFL season so far for Richmond, there have been a ton of highs and lows. Don't get me wrong, there's probably been a lot more highs. Like the Tigers were not even tipped to win a freaking game this year by some. And not only have we been able to win a game, but we've been able to win 5. Again, even though we've been able to do that, there has still been a couple of thrashings. So obviously, Richmond didn't do too well against Gold Coast, the other week. And quite frankly, you really saw like a team of a bunch of 18, to 20-year-olds who are so inexperienced in the Tigers go up against a team like the Gold Coast Suns who are, they're really starting to peak now. Again, Gold Coast are peaking that much that they've actually created something that Damien Hardwick, I think, in my opinion, has always done well since like 2017 as a coach, and that's being able to maintain and have a really good depth throughout their list. Again, the Gold Coast Suns are stacked from top to bottom, and there are a couple players who are playing in their VFL right now who are just not really able to get a game, no matter how hard they try, because the Suns are actually becoming that stacked of a football team as I'm making this video. Again, one of those players does happen to be Malcolm Rosas, who is about nearly 50 games in his career. Again, I believe 45 games in his career or so, and averages about a goal a game. Again, he's a medium-sized forward who, and I probably wouldn't call him a medium-sized forward. He's about 180 centimeters, so he's a small forward. I don't know. I kind of pulled medium-sized forward out of my asshole like this guy's freaking Will Hayward or some shit. He's a small forward, and he's actually been dominating, in the VFL as of late, to the point where he was actually able to kick 4 goals on the Richmond Football Club in the VFL. Again, why am I telling you all of this? Again, why I'm telling you all of this is because there's been a massive report as of late that does say that Richmond are interested in potentially trading for Malcolm Rosas in the offseason. Again, it is being said, Rosas to punt road. It was reported yesterday that Richmond are allegedly leading the race for Malcolm Rosas. This is the first time that I've heard that Richmond is aggressively pursuing someone. So what type of player is Rosas? The 24-year-old is talented but inconsistent. In his last 2 years, he's only managed 10 games at AFL. He hasn't set the world on fire in the VFL this year, only scoring 11 goals from 13 games, obviously, until the last couple weeks. Again, at his best, he is very good. At AFL level, he's kicked a bag of 4 goals and has scored 3 goals on 6 occasions. His tackle numbers are average at best. So what are you getting? A small forward who can create competition for spots in our forward line. Rosas is a very, very nice kick of the footy and has great speed. He won't transform our forward line, but he will provide a very nice highlights every once in a while. He's out of contract at the end of the year and would go for pennies, considering Gold Coast aren't playing him. Could be worth picking up as a delisted free agent or giving up a late future pick. Again, I sat there and contemplated whether or not Richmond should do this, because do I think Malcolm Rosas is going to be a future AFL player? Maybe, but most likely not. But in saying that, all good teams over the history of the AFL have not only drafted well, but they've brought in the diamond in the rough kind of players who you wouldn't really expect to actually be good, and they're probably playing VFL or something for a reason, and they're not expected to be that good, but you see something in them and you go and bring them in. Again, Collingwood in the last couple of years have been the best example of this. Pat Lipinski wasn't getting a game at the Western Bulldogs and was playing in the VFL. Collingwood ended up swooping him up, signing him to their team, making him a premiership player in the first year with them, and becoming one of the league's most underrated players since, and getting a consistent game now in what has become a team that will be contending for another premiership. They also signed delisted player Ned Long, who has played almost every game for them this season. They also signed delisted player Tim Membry, who has played basically every game for them this season as well. Again, Collingwood have been really good at looking for those diamond in the rough kind of players who aren't expected to be good or make much of an impact for your team, but they've managed to bring them in the right situation to be able to actually go and help with that. Again, so many teams have done that in the history of the competition. Brought in players that one team thought wasn't any good, and then they've come in and turned them and transformed them into a really good player. Again, one man's trash is another man's treasure. That is what I'm kind of seeing right now with Malcolm Rosas. Again, I've also mentioned on the channel that Richmond are very, very pursuing Darcy Wilson. It is being reported. And as I said in that video, when you get to about round 21 to round 22 in the AFL season, if a team is actually really interested in a player like the Tigers are for Darcy Wilson and Malcolm Rosas, that usually means that there is more often than not a pretty good chance that a trade could actually happen. Now, let's look at the facts here, right? The Tigers are going to be drafting 3 players in this upcoming draft. They're going to be drafting someone at pick 2, pick 3, and Lewis Callaway as a father-son. That means they need to minimum open up 3 list positions, which, again, whoever it might be, it doesn't exactly matter too much, right? We won't fully get into that yet. But the Tigers need to open up the 3 positions to make that happen. And the reality is that if you go out and get Darcy Wilson and you go out and get Malcolm Rosas, that now makes it 5 players that you need to delist or trade. And the reason I actually bring this up is because before I even get into the possibility of Rosas being a Tiger and how I think that would, how that could work, delisting and trading away 5 players this year, I actually think could be very difficult because in my opinion, Richmond have had a lot of players retire a lot younger than what they probably would want them to. Again, Caddy retired at about 29 years of age. Did that make sense back then? Yes. But if Caddy retired at about 29 right now, it wouldn't be too good because we need that veteran leadership and mentorship. It's the same as if a guy like Trent Cotchin or someone like that retired now, it probably wouldn't be that great. So if I'm using that logic with Camden McIntosh, who's 29, Dion Prestia and Tom Lynch, who were still playing decent footy and adding great leadership, I'm assuming all 3 of those guys are going to be getting re-signed, and I hope they do. They all deserve to be re-signed. So, if you do that, it doesn't leave many players you can delist. There's only like 5 or 6 players I think you can delist or trade, and realistically, a couple of them are like Tyler Sonsie and Thompson Dow, who probably deserve to go on next year, especially Thompson Dow. He was fantastic for us before he went down. So, if you were to bring in Malcolm Rosas or, of course, Darcy Wilson, there's going to be an unfortunate player or 2 who might lose their job and they probably don't deserve it. And it could actually be a Camden McIntosh who gets forced to retire. And that would be really stupid. Like, how are you going to force a guy to retire like Camden McIntosh, who's played every game for you this year, added great leadership, and has actually been a solid player for you? How are you going to force him to retire for a guy who is playing VFL right now, is going to be 25 years old, Malcolm Rosas, all of the above? Like, I don't know if you can swing that. Like, it doesn't sound right to me. It doesn't sound fair to me. It doesn't sound like Richmond would actually do that. So, if Richmond were to try and trade for Malcolm Rosas, this would be because they would have people plan that they're going to delist. Now, let's just say in the world that this does happen and Richmond can get Malcolm Rosas. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Richmond's small forwards aren't that great. Let's be honest here. I think Seth Campbell's a pretty good player. He's got a lot to develop, but he's actually a really good player. Morris Rioli Jr., if that guy could kick a goal a game, he'd be freaking prime LeBron. But he doesn't. Again, Steely Green is very inconsistent. He's not overly, overall that quick for a small forward. He also can go very missing as a player. And Ryan Mansell is, well, I've been pretty vocal about it on the channel. I think Ryan Mansell pops up once every 4 weeks and has a pretty good game. And in the other weeks, he's just absolutely hot garbage. I'm not that big of a fan of Ryan Mansell. I think he does good pressure and his tackling's good, but he doesn't get any of the ball. His effect with the ball is not that great, and he doesn't hit the scoreboard enough. Again, Jasper Olga, way too young to tell. We don't really know yet if Jasper Olga is going to be a good player. Taj Houghton, I'm going to leave him out of this conversation because he'll probably be a midfielder as much as he'll be a forward one day. But again, in saying all of that, Seth Campbell is the only one I think who will be a lock for a future forward with the Tigers. Steely Green and Ryan Mansell are way too inconsistent. Maurice Rioli Jr. doesn't hit the scoreboard enough. Again, I still am quite confident that hopefully one of those guys will be a future small forward with the Tigers. But Malcolm Rosas, at this point in time, like if you were to ask me, I still think Malcolm Rosas is probably a better player than what I've seen Ryan Mansell and Steely Green do. Again, it is going to be interesting though, because if you do add Malcolm Rosas, you do actually have a lot of small forwards there, and you've got a lot of, again, small forwards who are in that similar range. It's like, do you have too many, or does this actually, bring up competition for list spots as a small forward? Does this bring up competition for spots in your best 23 for the small forwards? It does, but how much does it actually elevate the competition? I'm not too sure. I don't know if Malcolm Rosas is truly worth trading for if you're getting a guy who is on par with Ryan Mansell and Steely Green and Maurice Rioli right now, or just slightly better, just the slightest bit better. Again, it's really, really tough. There's a lot the Tigers are going to have to think about. List spots, all of the above. I think Malcolm Rosas could be a delisted player as well. I don't think the Tigers would even have to give up anything for him. But then the other argument is, again, diamond in the rough. The Tigers have to start looking, I don't think necessarily this year, but within the next couple of years, to get some of those diamond in the rough players. Some of those players who aren't getting a consistent game with their team, who could actually help you going forward. The Pat Lipinski types, the Ned Long types, the Tim Embry types. Who are those players going to be for Richmond going forward? Again, the Jacob Townsend types. Richmond have done this before. Jacob Townsend was a delisted player who came in and had a massive impact. Again, he didn't play a whole lot for Richmond, in his time with the Tigers, but even Maverick Weller had a massive impact on the group. Had some competition for spots in his early part in his first year at Richmond, had a VFL premiership, really added to the depth. Again, who are those type of players going to be for Richmond, and can Malcolm Rosas be one of them? Again, we're going to have to wait and see if the Tigers do pursue this. I don't think they're going to have to trade for him. If they did, future 4th round pick at most. He has played 10 games in the last 2 years. It's open season if they really want him. So I'm interested to see how that's going to go. Again, I'd very much like to hear all of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Should Richmond go ahead and trade for Malcolm Rosas, or do you guys think they shouldn't? Should they try and sign him? Whatever it might be. Again, I'd very much like to know. Subscribe to this channel for all latest sports content. My gaming/movie channel is down below, and so is my Instagram. But yeah, as I was saying, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.